We love The Flash, and you should too. So Wally West was announced as a character joining the cast in Season 2. Not much else was said, so I figured let's talk about Wally West and who he is. Wally West was created as early as 1959 when he was introduced in Flash issue 110. He started as the nephew to Barry's girlfriend Iris, which is a role he maintains throughout most of his history. One night, while visiting his future uncle Barry at the Central City Police Lab, he found himself bathed in the same electrically charged chemicals as Barry. This instantly granted him the same powers as Barry, so he decided to don a costume as well and aid the Flash as Kid Flash. During this period for DC superheroes, there were a lot of children's superheroes being created that would eventually form up as the Teen Titans under the leadership of Dick Grayson. This made Wally West one of the original founding members of the Teen Titans. This role continued on until the event Crisis on Infinite Earths, where Barry ultimately gave his life to save the universe. With Barry out of the picture, Wally wasn't sure what to do next, but eventually Jay Garrick would convince him to take on the name and role of his mentor. Along with placing Wally into the role of the Flash, DC decided to change a few other things about the character, such as him only being able to run faster than the speed of sound and no longer able to run faster than the speed of light. He also needed to consume massive quantities of food to maintain his metabolism, something that was carried over into the 1990s Flash TV show. Throughout the 90s, Wally would deal with winning the lottery and his massive increase in wealth, becoming a playboy, and living his life in a mansion. But 60 issues into this concept, his wealth was stabilized and became less of an issue. Eventually, he would face Eobard Thawne and would discover that he could in fact go faster than Barry Allen. It was only a mental block keeping him from going this fast, as he didn't want anyone to consider him a better Flash. This was because he feared Eobard Thawne would replace the Flash and leave Wally in the dust, so he needed to be better, faster. There were a lot of alterations to the Flash's power set during this time period, such as vibrating through objects would cause them to explode and not just be something simple. He could also use the electricity to hit harder and even heal individuals. But eventually, the Speed Force would be introduced as the answer to how all of these speedsters can move so fast. Once Wally discovered the Speed Force, he was able to tap into it to further enhance his abilities and even be able to lend his speed to objects and people. This also launched a new storyline in which the Flash wasn't able to save someone, and due to this, he felt the pressure of being the Flash 24/7. With the inclusion of even more villains, such as Zoom, Wally eventually decided that the superhero life was just too much for him, and he decided to give it up. So he took his wife and family to an alternate dimension where they could live in peace. This left Bart Allen as the only Flash in the main universe. But the public didn't like Bart Allen as the Flash, and they missed Wally West. So DC decided to kill off Bart and bring Wally back to find the killers and get revenge. Needing to spice up the character, Wally came back aged with young children that also had speed-based powers. So the stories shifted to Wally being unable to find a job while teaching his young children how to use their powers and be superheroes. But the rest of the Justice League hated him for bringing children into the superhero fold. Barry Allen would eventually return in Final Crisis and become the new primary Flash once again. This gave Wally the time he needed to spend with his family. He did get some time in the Blackest Night helping Barry and Hal Jordan battle evil rings, but shortly after this the entire universe rebooted with the New 52. Now in the New 52, Wally has recently been introduced as a catalyst for Barry to always do the right thing. He is once again Iris's nephew and comes to stay with her. But we find out early on that he's gonna die in 5 years, and a Flash from the future comes back to the present day to stop present day Barry from messing up the timeline. The story ends with Wally once again getting powers and a costume of his own, becoming Kid Flash. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do to him in the TV show. If they keep the concept of him being the nephew to Iris, this will allow him to slowly become a superhero like Roy Harper in Arrow. I'm Dan for Comicstorian TV, and if you want to chat about this, follow us on Twitter @Comicstorian or Instagram @Comicstorian. I'll see you guys next time.